Texas football loses another close conference game. Coach Shaka Smart and the Longhorn basketball team gets their season underway, and the men's cross-country team advances to the NCAA championship. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Monday night. I'm Luke Hendry, and well, it has been 10 weeks since the miracle to open the season at DKR for the Texas football program. A win over the Notre Dame Irish looked promising for Coach Charlie Strong's team, but the Longhorns season has been nothing but more than up and down, and a close loss to West Virginia last week leaves Texas 7th in the Big 12 and 5-5 overall. Let's head to DKR for the highlights. The military is part of Veterans Day weekend at DKR for the 11 a.m. matchup, but it was West Virginia who got off to the early start. Quarterback Skylar Howard finds Karan White back of the end zone, 17-3 West Virginia early. Very next drive, Texas looking to come back. Deontay Foreman breaks through the secondary. That drive right there sets up this one. Fake handoff, QB keeper. Shane Buechele trots in the end zone from 10 yards, 17-10 West Virginia. Late field goal for Texas puts them down 4 heading into half. Now a slow start to the third quarter, but Kennedy McCoy finds the end zone for West Virginia. They go up 24-13. Next possession, Texas looking to march back once again. Colin Johnson slips a tackle. He takes it into the end zone from the 20-yard line. Texas down 4. Offensive line struggled all game for Texas, sacked there by Kaiser White. Led to one last drive by Texas, a desperation play here, thrown to the back of the end zone. Time expires, incomplete pass. West Virginia goes on to win this one 25-20. Coach Strong took over the reins of the defense following the team's loss against Oklahoma State back in Oklahoma, and there's no doubt that the team has improved since then. However, leaning on the shoulders of Sterling Gilbert's offense has been the story all season. Deontay Foreman rushed for more than 100 yards for the 11th consecutive game and has etched his name in Texas football history. But the Longhorns face a scenario that fans thought was of the past. Will a Charlie Strong team finish above 500? For more on the Texas football program's loss to West Virginia, here's our very own James Grachos and Mark Skoll Jr.
One easy way to define this Texas football team is great at home, disastrous on the road. While Saturday's game against West Virginia was far from disaster, the attitude of being unstoppable at DKR was lost.
I mean, it did hurt because, that streak we had going, but like I said, we can't dread on it. It's a loss that we just have to move on from and learn from our mistakes.
Strong's club in Austin had beat then top 10 ranked Notre Dame and Baylor and has shown signs of progress, but more importantly, if Texas wants to reestablish national prowess, DKR needs to be one of the toughest places to play in college football.
It burns. It's burning them right now in the locker room, but we still have 2 left, and we'll see how we take this game here and use it to our advantage and just continue to get better.
If there was any source of confidence this season, it was 100,000 screaming fans behind Texas. Despite over 500 yards on offense and their third best defensive performance of the season, it still wasn't enough. The Longhorns suffered another loss. So I'll toss it over to Mark for more on the leading Longhorn. But for now, James Grachos, College Press Box.
Thanks, James. While one streak comes to an end, another streak lives on. Running back Deontay Foreman rushed for 168 yards against West Virginia, making it the 11th straight game he rushed for over 100 yards, tying Earl Campbell's record.
It's an honor, honestly. I know somebody told me, to get the record or break the record, you got to go for 11, 1,200-yard games. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. But, just continuously grinding, working hard. My O-line was wonderful, so I'm so thankful to be mentioned with him.
And that hard work paid off for Foreman, who was congratulated at halftime by none other than Campbell himself.
He just told me congratulations. He told me that he hopes that I go break it next week, and he also said that if somebody breaks my record or whatever like that, just can come back and tell him congratulations, and I told him I definitely would.
Foreman can break Earl Campbell's record next week when the Longhorns travel to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the Jayhawks. Mark Skoll Jr., College Press Box.
Well, a special thanks to James and Mark for that report. And joining me now is our football analyst, Tyler King. Tyler, another hard-fought battle against West Virginia. Any takeaways from last week's game?
I'm really liking the connection between the two freshmen, Buechele and Johnson. I think that's going to evolve into a great connection over the 4 years. Defensively, Dylan Haynes just keeps finding himself in the wrong place at the right time, keeps getting interceptions thrown right to him when he's out of position. So it's interesting. All of his turnovers come from just interesting plays.
Well, Charlie Strong caught up with the media earlier today, and he said that his program needs to continue to compete and finish the season off with pride.
When we compete now, when we play, it's one of those when guys walk into a game, they expect to go win the football game. And like the one on Saturday, it hurt. And it hurt them big time because they know that we let one get away from us. But it just, overall, you just like just how competitive they are now. And just how much pride. It's all about pride. And it's just how much pride that they have within themselves and within the program.
Tyler, you mentioned that the defense there in your first response. And it's fair to say that under Charlie Strong, there has been improvement on that side of the ball. But Dylan Haynes finished with 2 interceptions, and the Texas defense did force 4 turnovers on that side of the ball. So what was it that was best about the Texas defense on Saturday?
I like the pressure. I mean, they didn't get the pressure that they normally get. They were able to get into his face enough to force the bad throws. Intermediate routes were still a struggle for Texas to defend. Luckily, Skylar Howard was not great with the deep ball, shown with the interceptions that Texas was able to get. The pressure needs to be a little bit better. I understand, he's not as mobile as Mahomes and the previous quarterbacks they faced, Seth Russell. And so the scheme is a little bit different, but maybe a little more pressure. But I really liked what the secondary did, being able to not give up the big routes to West Virginia, which is a big part of their offense.
Well, it was unfortunate that they didn't get to take advantage of those turnovers so much. And we turned to the Texas offense, and they played a complete game as well. Shane Buechele set career highs in both passing and rushing yards, finishing the contest with 342 total. D'Onta Foreman, under the radar it seemed, broke the century mark once again and actually tied Earl Campbell's record for the most consecutive 100-yard games. Here's what Charlie Strong had to say about the Texas offense.
We've been playing well on offense, and what happens, you face a really good defensive team and a very balanced defense that could bring a lot of pressure. But just offensively, we made a throw, and the one throw he made got Dorian down the field. And then it's just, with the routes, they sitting on some of the coverages. I mean, they sat down on some of our routes with their coverages. But I have no concerns with our offense. I know this, that we can score, and we'll be able to score at any time.
Tyler, what mistakes did this offense make to allow West Virginia to pull away with this win?
Well, there weren't a lot of mistakes, and if you think a year ago, and now we're saying the Texas offense isn't making the mistakes, big difference. A few things. Offensive line struggled. I think this is one of the worst. I wouldn't say the worst, but one of their worst games they've had all year. They just let too much pressure get in there. They let Buechele get hit way too many times. They haven't allowed very many pressures at all this year, and I remember at least four or five that Buechele just getting hit. Receivers' awareness the last drive, they weren't able to get out of bounds and stop the clock, and they had to spike the ball or just rush and get another play on. So just awareness of knowing where you're on the field last drive. But also, beginning of the second half, first drive they were going for it, and then they decided to kick the field goal. I think they still could have gone for it and been able to get it. That was a key moment, especially getting the field goal blocked. That gave West Virginia the ball back. Texas got no points. I don't know. I think they could have gone for it there. They've been pretty successful, especially that drive leading up to that. Wish they could have done that. But those are the few mistakes that offense made on Saturday.
Interesting play calling, no doubt, there from Sterling Gilbert. But Texas will continue their season this weekend in Lawrence against Kansas and then finish off the conference play with TCU at home. Tyler, 2 games remain, and Heisman voters are starting to look at our dominant player, D'Onta Foreman. What kind of performance does he have to finish off the season to have a seat in New York come December?
He needs to keep his yards per game average up. I know going into West Virginia, he was right around 180. I know it's a little bit lower now, but if he can keep up around 170 per game. I think he can get that because he should be able to get 200 plus against Kansas. Kansas defense isn't that great. If he did what he did against Tech, I think he could do something close to that against Kansas. TCU, if he can get about 130, 140 yards, that'll be really good for him. TCU and West Virginia are the two best defenses in the conference, and if he's putting up at least 140 on both of them, that's pretty good. I'd say for him to really have a chance to win this Heisman, he's got to get around to about 1,800, 1,900 yards. I don't know if he can get that 2,000 mark before then. I think that's what he needs, though, 1,800, 1,900 yards, have a shot for the Heisman. And if he's doing that, Texas should win one of these next two games to be bowl eligible as well.
It will certainly, no doubt, be fun to watch voters and fans follow the best college football players this season. Thanks again, Tyler, for joining us tonight. And when College Press Box return, we take a look at Texas basketball's start to their season and men's cross country regional finish. All that and more coming up next. Welcome back to College Press Box. Joining me out now at the desk is Elena Vieira. Elena, another close game for Texas football. What did you take away from the game against West Virginia?
Well, Luke, there were a lot of close plays and close calls that could have gone either way, and unfortunately they all added up to a Longhorn loss. But this week the football team wasn't the only team competing on the 40 acres. Texas women's volleyball took on Baylor for the second time this season Wednesday night at Gregory Gymnasium. Senior Paulina Prieto-Cerame led the way for the Longhorns with 17 kills. Freshman Micaiah White registered 8 kills and 8 digs on the night. Senior Chloe Collins posted 33 assists and 3 kills, tying her season high. Junior Kat McCoy led the team with 13 digs, and freshman Morgan Johnson registered 7 blocks, tying her season high as well. The Longhorns swept the Bears in 3 sets, improving to 19-3 on the season.
Texas softball completed their fall season with a matchup against Texas State last Thursday night at McCombs Field. The Longhorns offense out-hit the Bobcats 8-4 and were led by Caitlin Slack and Reagan Hathaway. Texas State's unearned run in the top of the 6th was enough to hold off the Longhorns and defeat Texas 1-0. This was the Longhorns' first loss of the fall season, and they finished the 7-game stretch 6-1. Texas will begin its spring season in February.
This past week, senior Madison Cox was selected as the National Swimmer of the Week after she won all of her individual events against Texas A&M and NC State. The women's swimming and diving team also took a trip out west last week, winning their meet against the Cal Bears and losing their meet to the Stanford Cardinal. The diving teams will compete at the Texas Diving Invitational this weekend, while the swim teams prepare for the annual Texas Swimming Invitational at the end of the month.
The Texas men's and women's cross-country team competed at the NCAA South Central Region Championship in Fayetteville, Arkansas last Friday. The women were led by senior Sandy Raines, who finished the 6K run in 20 minutes, 51 seconds, in 12th place overall. The Texas women's team will not advance to the NCAA Championship as they finished 4th in the region. The men were led by senior Nate Moore, and the team finished just behind Arkansas for the regional title. The second place finish automatically advances the Longhorns, along with the Arkansas Razorbacks, to the NCAA Championship that will be held in Indiana this Saturday.
Texas men's basketball had their season opener this Friday night against the University of the Incarnate Word at the Frank Irwin Center. Texas defeated Incarnate Word by a score of 78-73. Senior Kendall Yancey led the Longhorns with 19 points and a career-best 4 steals. Forward Jarrett Allen was one of 3 freshmen to score in the double digits and also recorded a double-double in his first career game with 16 points and 12 rebounds.
Elena, it was certainly good to see the Longhorns come out and win their opener, but the Texas basketball team is young, and the youth certainly showed some inexperienced mistakes there on the court. What do you think Shaka Smart is going to have to do to mature this program while still picking up key non-conference victories?
Well, Luke, the guys showed a lot of promise this weekend, but with any young team, there are gonna be some growing pains. The team just has to play together more, and Shaka Smart will have to help them create some better team chemistry. The team also has to avoid making mistakes that they made during the season opener, and they have to learn from them.
Well, it was my apologies to Shaka Smart on that mistake. But they are currently playing, actually, Louisiana Monroe at the Frank Irwin Center. As we speak, it will be interesting to see how they match up against them. Elena, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks again for coming on tonight. And coming up next, James Grachos and Justin Honore will take us beyond the 40 acres and look at college football around the nation. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome into this week's segment of Unhooked. James Grachos here, joined by Justin Honore to recap another wild weekend of football. We expected some good games such as Duke and North Carolina, Baylor, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss versus A&M, but there were a few teams at the top that were supposed to glide to easy victories. Justin, that was not the case, was it?
It certainly wasn't the case, James. Washington, a team a week ago that was angry for being left out of the playoff. This week, they got their wish, but granted, USC had other plans in mind. So let's head to Husky Stadium for the highlights. All right, so we got quarterback Sam Donner looking for his receivers, looking in the pocket. You can read a book back there, finds Darius Rogers in the back of the end zone for the touchdown. Ronald Jones at the end of the right before the half scores a touchdown to put SC up 17-6. But Washington had other plans in mind. Jake Browning finds John Ross for the go route for the touchdown, putting USC up 17-13. But Donner would respond. He finds his tight end, Dante, for the touchdown. Browning has one last chance, tries to look for his receiver, throws an interception, and it looks like Adoree Jackson ends the game for Washington.
Yeah, the poor Pac-12. Now, I did a bit on Clemson a few weeks ago. It seemed like they would have a smooth ride into the playoff sunset. But first, they would have to get through Pitt, who are constantly finding a way to make their games close. So let's head to Death Valley for the highlights. We start off 27 Clemson. Pitt with a little shovel pass to Scott Orndorff. He finds it, and right here, Wayne Gallman, he's going to punch it in to create a little bit of separation in the score. Now, in the fourth quarter, Deshaun Watson would have a chance to really put the icing on it, but he's picked off by Salim Brightwell. He's going to take it all the way back to the Clemson 30. Not what we like to see from Deshaun Watson, a Heisman contender for sure. Nice little tackle here. This would set up another opportunity for James Conner, the Pitt running back, at 190 yards on the day. And check out this little run. Busts out to the outside. Stiff arm, take a seat, nice knowing you. He's going to punch it in to make it 42-40 for Clemson. They would not convert on the two-point conversion, so they'd have to make a stop, and they did. Gallman looking for it on 4th and 1. He takes a seat, and that would set up an opportunity, a 48-yard kick for Chris Blewett for all the marbles. And boom, right down the center from 50. He might have made it from 60. And Clemson goes down, and they now sit at 5th in the nation. Certainly not what we expected.
With 3 weeks to go, this seemed to be Michigan's last test for their annual matchup with Ohio State. Did they pass the test? Let's go to Connect Stadium and find out. All right, so we got Ty Isaac touchdown running in, giving Michigan the 10-0 lead. And then C.J. Becker would respond, would find his running back.
That's a screen right there.
Yeah. Then Kenny Smith would hit the 51-yard field goal to put Michigan up 13-11. Harbaugh is hyped. You got Desmond King return the punt. You'd think just to get them in field position, but he gets dragged down around the 48-yard line. But wait, there's a face mask. And put 15 more yards. Harbaugh can't believe it. Now Iowa setting up for the game-winning 33-yard field goal with Keith Duncan giving Iowa the 14-13 lead. Look at the fans storming the field.
Storming it, baby. Now that's crazy stuff. I know I personally didn't expect any of these results, all exciting, but which one shocked you the most?
I'm going to have to go with Michigan-Iowa because, you would think Clemson's been struggling a minute, but Iowa, I didn't think Iowa could pull it out because, they lost to North Dakota State at the beginning of the year. They're an average team at best, and Michigan's supposed to be one of these premier teams with a premier defense, and they just didn't show up that day.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised to see Harbaugh's boys go down now that Michigan and Ohio State have a loss. It seems as though only one of them is going to make the playoff because Washington is in the Pac-12. They're doubtful. So of Michigan and Clemson, who respectively sit at 4 and 5 in the nation, who do you see playing postseason ball?
I'm going to have to go with Clemson. They got only Wake Forest and South Carolina, 2 easy games they should easily win, and then the ACC championship if they win out. But Michigan, they got Ohio State, and their quarterback just got hurt, so we don't know what could happen.
Yep, another week of college football that is oh so exciting is in the books. Just 3 weeks left before the regular season madness finishes up. So strap in. When we return, we'll let you know what's going on in Texas sports. Luke, back to you.
My bad. No.
Thanks for sticking around on College Press Box. Well, Texas Athletics has yet another busy week ahead. Let's take a look at what Longhorn sports are underway this week. Currently, men's basketball and women's basketball are both competing. You can catch those games on LHN or ESPN. Most of those games will be over by the end of the night. Wednesday, women's basketball will take on Houston Baptist, and volleyball has Texas Tech. Both those games here in Austin. And on Thursday, men's basketball will have their third opener against Eastern Washington. All of those games on LHN. Swimming and diving will also be competing this week at the Texas Diving Invitational. And on Saturday, there's a plethora of sports. Track and field, football, and volleyball will all be underway. That primetime game at 2:30 on ABC and ESPN 2 against Kansas. Sunday will wrap out the week as women's basketball. It will be at Mississippi State. That game can be caught on SEC Network. Now, before we go, we return to the recognition of current and former Longhorn Olympians that were recognized on Saturday. More than 140 Longhorns have represented their respective countries at the Olympic Games and have won a total of 143 medals, including 83 golds. The UT Austin Tower was lit orange last Friday night, and the campus welcomed former Longhorns who have competed in the Olympics for the T Association's first ever UT Olympic homecoming. Many athletes were honored during the football game at DKR on Saturday, and Texas fans around the world are looking forward to the upcoming Olympic Games in South Korea in Tokyo. Well, that is all we're going to have for you tonight, and once again, thanks so much for joining us. Follow TSTV Sports on social media throughout the year for your latest Longhorn sports coverage. That is at TSTV Sports. And join us right here every Monday night for College Press Box. Also, for some hot takes, tune into our sister show, College Crossfire, airing Wednesdays at 9. From all of us here in studio, Master Control, special thanks for you to spending our Monday night with us. Until next time, I'm Luke Hendry. Good night.
Down south when I'm